Buzz's Retirement Garage. I don't usually do consecutive day videos, but I wanted to jump on yesterday's video because yesterday, for those of you who didn't see, we did a retirement procrastination and end of the road was the title. And basically, someone passed and they were only 62, and it was a subscriber, Al, who sent me an email to tell me about this guy. And he was from Lorain County in Ohio. And so his point was to get out and do things because you never know when things are going to happen. So I told Al, I emailed him last night, and I said, hey, Al, I did a video, and I mentioned his name was Scott, who passed away at 62, teacher for 33 years. And I said, Al, I did mention him, and yes, you're right, and we should be trying to do things more often, and we shouldn't procrastinate as much. Even though we're retired, we should probably try to, get off that couch, out of that chair. And I know here in Cleveland, wintertime's tough to do that. Yesterday it was 60 degrees. Look at me, I'm bundled up like an Eskimo today because it's 35, and I woke up to a layer of snow. That's Cleveland weather, though. What are you going to do? So Al emailed me back again this morning, and he came up with, once again, a good topic, which relates to the one from yesterday, and that's why I'm doing this back-to-back series, if you want to call it. Back in March 28th, actually, of last year, I had about 9,000 subscribers, and I did a video about how, if you're single or if you have a spouse, how you have to make sure that they know that if you pass, where everything's at and how everything runs. So he said in his email to me that after he found out that this Scott died, who he was related to in some form, he sat with his wife and they went over all the finances, they went over all the passwords, they went over how she should do something. He's married, and how she should do something if he passes. So, and she said, well, maybe I'll get a condo, or maybe, and so they're talking about that now. But those are conversations that are good to have at our age. So I know with me and Mrs. Buzz, I actually still get paper bills. And this is what I said 11 months ago, or almost 12 months ago, and it's still true. We get paper bills for a couple reasons. One, she doesn't look at, I pay the bills online, but she doesn't see all the transactions. Normally in a household, now let's call it with the spouse. Normally one is doing, especially based on the comments that I saw in the video from last year that I did, one spouse is usually doing all of the work on their phone or their computer or whatever, paying the bills. The other spouse maybe knows about things, knows where the password book is at, all that good stuff, but they're not involved on a month-by-month basis. So the one spouse takes care of it. Now what happens if that spouse passes? The other spouse automatically has to start taking care of business. Now again, in my case with Mrs. Buzz, I want the paper bills to come in. And for two reasons. One, when you're paying a bill online, you don't really get to see, in my opinion, you don't really get to see all the detail of the bill. You see, okay, it's $40 or whatever and pay by whatever date, but you're not looking at the whole transaction of the bill. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying in some cases, you're not looking at that. With a paper bill, I'm looking at, everything that's on there, every single charge, and we both can look at it. So I may pick up on something that she doesn't, and same with her. She'll pick up on something that I don't see. She'll question, well, why is this like this? Well, if one person's paying a bill online, you don't get that opportunity. So for us, it makes sense to still get paper bills. And of course, now the electric company's charging us 50 cents for that right to have a paper bill. And that's the way it goes. So having your passwords, and again, comments that were left on the video a year ago where my spouse wants nothing to do with it. My spouse doesn't care. And for a single person has to make sure that whoever they designate, right, to take care of their finances, take care of their funeral, whatever, that they are well versed on where everything's at, from the key to get into the condo, apartment, or home, all the way to where all the finances are at. And there was a few comments on that video where they walked in the home, they had no idea where their mother or their father had their stuff. They had no idea. And one even commented that there was a CD that just came due, for thousands of dollars. They didn't even know about. It wasn't written down anywhere. So it's good, I think, if we kind of look back and kind of just say, hey, how are we handling if somebody passes, if, Mrs. Buzz passes or I pass, how are we passing the torch, right? And that's a big question. And it's not like a topic of dinner conversation that you want to have, right? It's sometimes we avoid that because we don't want to think about the inevitable. And that's probably the wrong way to look at it. We should have our password book if you don't have that, or something in the computer that's backed up somewhere. We should have all our documents in order. Some people use a fire safe, lock and key, where it's flame proof to 1,000,000,000 degrees or whatever, in case there's a house fire. Some people go that method. Some people, again, just have it on their computer and they back it up maybe on another hard drive or an external drive. Everybody does their thing different. Now, with this age of electronics and paying bills online, which a lot of people do now, things have changed. So we have to make sure that the spouse knows. And what I do, just, for instance, every week I take everything that we have, money-wise, and put it on. I keep a journal that I started last year when I retired. And I take the journal and I write down every week, at the end of the week, what money is in every single account. So it'll show, my this bank, E-Trade, Fidelity, and I'll break it down by wherever it's at. And then in the password book, which is actually a book, I write down the passwords or any changes to those passwords. Because now on the phone, too, you have the two-factor authentication. It's just getting complicated anymore. So if I pass, I told her, just call Fidelity. And make sure, by the way, make sure that your spouse, if you choose to, make sure your spouse is on there as the inheritance person to get, because if you just set up an E-Trade or a Fidelity account and you don't put anybody in there as, who the money should go to, it could take a while to go through probate and, prove that, all that good stuff. So make sure that that's taken care of. Your spouse needs to be either a co-owner or has to be on there as next of kin, however you want to describe it. So the password book is important. How you pay your bills is important. Having your spouse, or if you're single, having someone who's going to take care of you or take care of your finances and take care of all the things that need to be done, you got to keep them in the loop. A lot of people suggest having their children involved. Now, some people don't want to do that because they don't want their kids to get, know all their stuff right now, and they'll wait until they pass. And that's fine too. But have a plan, and it's tough to talk about. But just like I said in yesterday's video about procrastination, this is another one that we shouldn't procrastinate about. So again, in Mrs. Buzz's case, She knows where everything's at. She knows all the passwords. All she's got to do is call the different institutions and start taking care of business, I'm sure with the help of my daughter. As Al said in the email, who's the plumber that you call? So give a list of, you got your plumber, the electrician, the handyman, whoever it's going to be, because if you're the guy and you do most of the handiwork in the house and you're not around, who is she going to call? Sure, she can, look online and find out, but if you have a trusted person, yeah, this guy comes over and does our electric, but I don't know who he is. I don't know, my husband takes care of that. Leave that list, Mr. Husband. Leave that list so that she has a go-to person when something nasty happens. Pipe breaks or something happens with the electrical, or an appliance breaks, that she can get to, call and get to that person without scrounging around. Now, that's not the end of the world if that happens, but I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. But very important, make sure the two of you understand each other, understand where everything's at, so that if something happens, and maybe even practice, like, okay, I passed today, what are you doing? What's your steps? How are we doing it? And kind of just like an emergency drill almost. I know that sounds crazy, but maybe it's something that we should do, because the inevitable is coming. And in the case of Scott at 62, did he even talk to he had a fiance at the time. Did he talk to his fiance about where all his stuff is at? Maybe he didn't. And now she's got and of course they're not married, but she's got a struggle on her hands now. So let's make it easy for the spouse. Let's make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And we'll stay off this subject for maybe another year. Buzz's Retirement Garage. Have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you later.